Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Erin Viner.
And I'm Rebecca Rand.
In our top story, the White House and the Israeli Prime Minister's office are denying that President Barack Obama invited Israeli Premier Benjamin Netanyahu for a face-to-face meeting in Washington. Earlier reports cited a source at the State Department who said that the bilateral summit would be held mid-July. Obama has previously said that he would not meet with Netanyahu until the signing of a nuclear deal with Iran that is vehemently opposed by the Prime Minister.
Senior Western diplomats are voicing concern over the reaching of a nuclear deal by the June 30th deadline amid increasing reports that Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is suffering terminal prostate cancer and may have just months to live. Hardliners and moderates are now allegedly fighting to take over rule of the Islamic Republic, causing the sources to fear that if Khamenei dies or is incapacitated, the need to prove revolutionary credibility may lead the competitors to veto any agreement with world powers.
A shocking new United Nations report has revealed what appears to be a tacit agreement by the international community to look the other way when it comes to violations of the arms embargo against Iran. Because not even a single violation has ever been reported, the UN panel of experts monitoring the sanctions say that they suspect a political decision has been taken to avoid negatively impacting the nuclear negotiations. The team's final report cited specific violations that went undocumented and quoted several international sources who reported that Iranian attempts to circumnavigate the economic measures remain unchanged. The panel went on to conclude that the lack of Iran's reported procurement efforts is likely to raise concern over the accuracy of any future monitoring of its atomic activities.
Prime Minister Netanyahu held a discussion on a range of issues with Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Martin Dempsey, in the Israeli capital. Netanyahu again urged Washington to delay signing a final accord with Iran, which he deems as dangerous. The top American general sought to reassure Israel by saying that the long-term prospects are far better with an Iran that isn't a nuclear weapons power. He also described U.S. support of Israel as unshakable and vowed that Washington will work to mitigate any Iran-related risks, with or without a deal.
During his meeting with Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon, General Dempsey highlighted the close ties between the two allies' armed forces. He mentioned that this has been his 5th trip to Israel and that he's held talks with Ya'alon in Washington 7 times. Dempsey expressed his pride in the strong relations between the two countries, saying that he couldn't even imagine a world without such unbreakable bonds. He also worked to ease Israeli concerns over the American supply of weapons to help the Gulf Arab states battle the Islamic State and deter Iranian ambitions by underscoring Washington's commitment for Israel to maintain its military edge in the region.
Turning to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Prime Minister Netanyahu is expressing hope that moderate Arab states could influence the Palestinian Authority to return to peace negotiations. During his address at the strategic conference in Herzliya, Netanyahu blamed the 14-month impasse on the PA, but said he still believes the process can be renewed if the Palestinians choose to do so. He also accused Ramallah of creating the perfect catch-22 by refusing to negotiate with Jerusalem and instead appealing to the international community to turn up the pressure, sanctions, and boycotts against Israel because there are no peace talks.
In fact, that is just what Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is continuing to do. During his address to the African Union Assembly in Johannesburg, he called on the heads of state not to buy any goods produced by Israeli-owned companies in Judea and Samaria and have any that are delivered labeled as settlement products to deter consumers from buying them. Abbas also announced that the Palestinian Authority plans to review its political, economic, and security arrangements with Israel during a news conference he gave in Belgrade after holding talks with Serbian President Tomislav Nikolic. He was adamant about not returning to the bargaining table until all of his preconditions have been met, including the release of all convicted Palestinian security prisoners, the end of all building in the biblical Jewish heartland of Judea and Samaria, and he insisted that the peace talks conclude within 1 year with the establishment of a Palestinian state.
Israel's Minister of Justice, Ayelet Shaked, announced that the government is about to launch a new strategy of legal steps to counter the BDS movement. During her remarks at the Herzliya Interdisciplinary Conference, Shaked cited judicial bodies in multiple nations around the world that have repeatedly ruled that there are no violations of international law for companies to operate over the 1967 lines. There is also greater resistance abroad to the Palestinian-led campaign. Kurds in cinemas and the British Academy of Film and Television Arts rejected demands to cancel the London, Israel, Sarit Film Festival because it is partially funded by the Israeli government. Company executives say they hosted many such festivities throughout the years and have never before been asked to consider the source of financial backing.
Meanwhile, the CEO of the French telecom giant Orange has again apologized to Israel, this time in person. Stéphane Richard came to Jerusalem for meetings with top Israeli leaders and insisted any statements he made indicating the company's wish to sever business ties with the Jewish state were taken out of context. Richard told Prime Minister Netanyahu that it was an honor to meet with him and thanked him for the opportunity to make it totally clear that Orange has never and will never support any kind of a boycott against Israel. While speaking of commercial ventures Orange has undertaken with Israeli startups, he said that Israel is a fantastic place to be in the digital industry and that it is the company's intention to not only continue investment in the country, but to increase it.
Despite having pulled American troops out of Iraq in 2011, President Obama has deployed 450 additional American soldiers to the country to set up a new training base about 15 miles from the combat zone in Ramadi. Iraqi Defense Minister Khaled al-Obaid met with the chief of the United States Central Command, Lloyd Austin, in Baghdad to discuss the readiness of the armed forces to retake territory seized by the Islamic State. The latest American forces will join 3,100 other advisors and trainers in the U.S. contingent in the hope that a strengthened U.S. presence on the ground in Anbar can help the Iraqi military devise and carry out counterattacks against ISIS. The latest developments are unlikely to silence critics who argue that the limited U.S. military role in the conflict is not enough to turn the tide of the battle.
Lebanon's army is test firing the latest shipment of missiles sent from the United States. The anti-armor and bunker buster rockets were delivered at the start of the month as part of the munitions package sent to help Lebanon combat Islamist extremists on its border with Syria. Lebanon is the fifth largest recipient of U.S. military aid and was given more than $100 million last year.
Kurdish forces are engaged in a fierce battle against the Islamic State for the Syrian border town of Tel Abyad, sparking the flight of more than 13,000 people into Turkey just this past week. Many of the refugees are Syrian women and children. The northeastern corner of Syria is considered critical because it links areas controlled by ISIS in Syria and Iraq. With the help of the U.S.-led coalition and small opposition groups, the Kurdish-led YPG forces are now successfully advancing into the ISIS-held stronghold of Raqqa and threatening supply lines into the extremist de facto capital.
Friends and family of Keith Broomfield are in mourning after the State Department confirmed the death of the American volunteer in battle with ISIS. The 36-year-old was killed in Kobani while fighting with the Kurdish forces. Family members remember Broomfield as being firmly opposed to evil, and community members near his Boston area hometown remember him as a religious man. Westminster Police Chief Sam Albert said that Broomfield fought alongside the Kurds because of the ISIS persecution of Christians. And the pastor of the Twin City Baptist Church, Dr. Gary Moritz, said he knew Broomfield was determined to share his love for God with other people. Broomfield was among dozens of Westerners, including American veterans of the Iraq War, believed to be fighting on behalf of the Kurds.
There is some good news from Syria, where residents of the mountain town of Malulu are celebrating. The community applauded, sang hymns, and prayed for peace in the war-ravaged nation as they replaced the statue of Mary that was destroyed when the Nusra Front seized control of the area in 2013. The town is considered one of the world's oldest Christian settlements, about 35 miles from Damascus. It was recaptured from the al-Qaeda-linked rebels last April by Syrian government troops. Many Bibles and religious items dating back several centuries stolen by the Islamist extremists and smuggled into Lebanon have also been returned to Malulu.
Archaeological excavations on the outskirts of Jerusalem have unearthed a large Byzantine-era road station that includes a church. According to the Israel Antiquities Authority, the 1,500-year-old house of worship is about 52 feet long and has a white-tiled mosaic floor and a side chapel. Fragments of red-colored plaster shows that the church walls were once adorned with frescoes. Additional rooms discovered a little to the west of the site are where archaeologists believe that the inhabitants once lived. Many other relics have also been recovered, such as oil lamps, coins, special glass vessels, and mother-of-pearl shells. The treasure trove was found while widening the highway linking the Holy City with Tel Aviv, a roadway that researchers believe was initially built in the Byzantine period and used by the Romans in ancient times.
One place in the world stands out for the CEO of the TripAdvisor travel website among all others, and that's Jerusalem. The chief executive of the $11 billion company says that when he thinks back to all of the places he's visited, the Holy City is his very favorite. Stephen Koffer says it is simply magical to be able to visually appreciate history from thousands of years ago, mixed with modern life going on all around it. We here at Israel Now News urge all of our devoted viewers to come to Israel to experience the blessed beauty of Jerusalem for yourselves. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Sasson Naim. He is the director of the Worldwide Federation of Aramaic Speakers. Naim, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
When you think of Aramaic, you think of a dead language, yet we hear it more and more. There was a movie, the Passion of the Christ, that was all in Aramaic, and we're hearing it get spread around the world. Tell us about the language.
The language is my mother tongue, and it exists in speaking, but not so much. The ancient language is a dead one, but we have developed the language into spoken one. And we are speaking to each other Aramaic. I met people in Los Angeles. They have TV in Aramaic, a theater in Aramaic, and they go to church and pray in Aramaic. So the language is not dead. And I have initiated to produce a dictionary, Aramaic, Hebrew, and English. So a little bit to help that Aramaic will not die. It's a very important language, as you know.
So the Worldwide Federation of Aramaic Speakers, what does it actually do?
We try to inherit the language to our descendants, to my son and to my grandson and so on.
Something that's unique is that you're actually a religious Jew, but because of your work with Aramaic, you work with Christians all over the world. Why is this such an important language for Christians?
It's the language of Jesus spoke Aramaic, so they like it, and they kept the language very, very strictly.
You work with an organization out of Germany called the Sisters of Maria. Tell us a little bit about that organization.
This organization is very important for Jewish people in Israel, especially for the Holocaust survivors. The sisters would they had a guest house here in Jerusalem in Engedi 10, and they hosted people who are from Holocaust survivors for 1 week a year, free. And they served them, they helped them for 50 years.
You speak Aramaic yourself, but how many people in the world now speak Aramaic?
I thought that there are only 400,000 people around the world, but now I realize, after being in duty so much, that we are more than 10 million people speak Aramaic.
And you're originally from Iran. You came and made Aliyah to Israel. Yes. How is it coming from Iran to Israel and seeing what's happening with Iran today?
Oh, it's very difficult to speak about that. I'm from Kurdistan of Iran. We had no problem with our neighbors. They are all Sunnah. In opposite of Shia, they are not extreme religious, and they treated us nicely. But when the state of Israel was established, in one day, our rabbi told us to go to Israel, and all of us in one day left the city and went to Tehran and stayed there for more than a year, waited for airplane to take us to Israel. And today is very difficult to think about the mullah and the ayatollahs in Iran in opposite of the situation we had with the Shah of Iran, who was very liberal and liked Jewish people. I'm sorry for his period, that it's over.
Today, how many people are like you that have come from Iran and speak Aramaic in Israel?
In Israel, about 250,000 people, but not only from Iran, from Iraq, from Syria, Turkey, and Azerbaijan of Russia.
And what is the trouble in trying to bring this language to your children? Where's the roadblock there?
No, we didn't speak to our children in Aramaic. We spoke to them Hebrew. But today we are going to have courses in Aramaic and to bring back the language.
So there are literally tens of millions of people watching the show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
One, to help the sisters. You know, the Bet Avraham, sister of Maria, they worked hard here, but today they downsized their activity. And if somebody has an idea how to help nice people, that's the way to do for Israel. One. The second is, if somebody wants to know about Aramaic, they can contact me.
Thank you, Sasan, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
Take a good look at the future of medical technology. This is a 12 weeks old human fetus. A pediatrician is giving the unborn baby a thorough, almost physical examination from every angle. Almost physical because what we are looking at in real time is a 3D image of the embryo, which is still safely encased in its mother's womb. And this is a fully grown, live and beating child's heart. These hyper-accurate holograms were produced during clinical trials conducted at Schneider Children's Medical Center in Petach Tikva and presented recently at the Cardiovascular Research Foundation Symposium in San Francisco.
זמן אמיתי, לב פועם. ועכשיו אני יכול לעשות את הצנתור ולראות את הקתטרים שלי זזים בתלת מימד. אני יכול להסתכל מסביב, אני יכול לחתוך את הלב, אני יכול להבין בצורה אינטואיטיבית מה אני עושה בתוך הלב של הבן אדם שלי מטפל בו, כאילו שהלב היה פועם פה בידיים שלי.
The system operates by using data analysis produced by various X-rays, MRI or ultrasound scans to create holograms in space, allowing the user to see a three-dimensional composition and interact with it, something that can't be done on a flat computer screen.
בניגוד להדמיה הדלת-ממדית שהיום ניתנת לצפייה על פני מסכים דו-ממדיים, כמו שאתם רואים פה מאחוריי, ההולוגרמה מאפשרת לנו להסתכל במרחב, כאילו מונח לפנינו לב שצף, מסתובב, אנחנו יכולים לחתוך את הלב ולהסתכל לתוכו.
You can go into a specific valve that you're treating right now and you can look at this valve and everything is real time, everything is dynamic, everything is digital, so you can look at that valve, you can take an actual device and put it inside the valve and measure and see if it fits, so you can do things that are only you're only capable of doing with a true hologram.
The founders of RealView, Shaul Gelman, who is company president and head of research and development, and CEO Aviad Kaufman, both held senior positions in Israel's defense industries before establishing this venture. And while both firmly refrained from elaborating on their past successes, they agreed that the current breakthrough was no coincidence.
I think there is a very unique group of people here that came from multidisciplinary development companies, such as defense companies and also medical companies, that are taking many disciplines from computational aspects, hardware, software, mechanics, optics, electro-optics, man-machine interface, and combine them all into one integrated solution.
Using the same technology platform, the company is developing several product configurations that will eventually be applied to a whole spectrum of medical procedures, including the facilitation of remote operations or 3D modeling of body parts.
This type of technology will eventually go to many places. It will go to obstetrics, to pre-planning of surgical procedures, it will go to biopsy, it will go to many places that people are working inside the body and want to visualize inside the body, but don't want to open the body.
Three-dimensional medical holograms, no longer science fiction.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
In 1980, the Israeli parliament passed a law declaring a united Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the State of Israel. Threatened by the Arab League with an oil embargo, national embassies in Jerusalem closed their doors. That same year, Christians from around the world gathered in Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. Sensing the isolation of the Israeli people, the participants and leaders of this gathering decided to establish the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem.
The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is since more than 30 years right here in Jerusalem to connect the global church with the nation of Israel. For many Jewish people throughout the centuries, the only face of Christianity, what they experienced, was the ugly face of anti-Semitism, of Christians persecuting the Jewish people wherever they found them. As Christian Embassy, we are here in Israel to show a new face of the church, a new face of Jesus Christ to the Jewish people. We are here to affirm to Israel and to the nation that God is a covenant-keeping God, that God is a God who didn't abandon His people, but that He is faithful to every single promise which He has made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
What an amazing thought, that when everyone was abandoning Israel, Christians stepped in and said, we will stand with Israel and we will have an embassy in Jerusalem.
Already for more than 30 years, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is reaching out all over the land, from the north to the south, from the east to the west, to reach those people that are in need. And these people are, of course, the Jewish people who live in this land. But we've also been reaching out to the Christian Arab, to the Muslims, to the Bedouin, and to the Druze that are part of the population of Israel.
vision is to build relationships, to foster reconciliation, and to reach out with God's love by responding to the social needs that come across our desk every single day. Through the projects that we do, we hope to provide a better future for the people of Israel and to reach out with hope to those who need it most.
With representation in more than 80 countries around the globe, the ICEJ is actively working to be the connection of the Christian Church worldwide to Israel.
To say that we want to reach every country in the world, it's not just a saying, it's a mandate from God that we are to reach into every nation of the world, find those willing to represent their nation and stand with Israel in these days. It's prophetic, it's significant, and it's absolutely world-changing.
Through our publications, TV programs, digital media platforms, and annual events such as the celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles, we are providing resources and opportunity for the church to connect and engage in being an active part of what God is doing today in the nation of Israel.
You know, the truth is, the work of the ICJ is more important now than it's ever been. With Israel at the eye of the Middle East storm, we must stand with Israel and we must stand with the Jewish people to see God move in our generation right here in the land.
It's so important to educate the church regarding Israel from the Word of God and in the Bible. There's a lot of theory among the Christians speaking about Israel and a lot of opinions, but we do have to go to the Word of God with the revelation of the Holy Spirit actually, so the church can really understand that without the Jewish people and without Israel, there wouldn't be any church, there wouldn't be any Bible, there wouldn't be any salvation.
I want to personally invite you to find out more how you can connect yourself or your church with the nation of Israel. I look forward to hearing from you.
To learn more about how you can connect with what God is doing today in Israel, visit our website at www.icej.org.
And that's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Erin Viner.
And I'm Rebecca Rand, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us next week for all of your Israel updates.